MagicCon Las Vegas was this past weekend, and we had so many announcements. Insane spoilers such as the new Tezzeret from Edge of Eternities, as well as the upcoming sets in 2026. I wanted to go over all of those announcements today. If I miss anything at all, especially when it comes to lore elements, let me know in the comment section down below, especially when it comes to Edge of Eternities and the whole sci-fi element of it all. I am hyper focused on trying to get caught up on Magic lore, but let's hop right into it. We're going to start off with a bunch of the good news. We got Brian Kibler and Elizabeth Gobert-Thicks getting, well, married in the future. We got a proposal happening live on stage. This was a great positive thing to come out of this event, so I definitely wanted to highlight it there. Next up, we have the Shocklands being reprinted. So to all my mana-based lovers out there, shout out to all the arena players that are getting extra stonks, because for those of us who've been on arena for a minute, we probably have these, but notably, to my knowledge, these are the first time these are being reprinted in a standard set outside of Ravnica. Correct? Which is kind of interesting. It kind of helps us come up with the ideas of how they might be loosening up where they want to print certain cards and how they're not necessarily tied to different planes. Now, notably, the triomes kind of are, based on how they're like named and stuff like that. They kind of lock them in there, and I think they've kind of learned from some of these mistakes they've made. Yes, we will eventually have to go back to like New Capenna to get some of our triomes, but that doesn't mean we can't get them through like supplementary commander product or something like that, which doesn't necessarily bring it down. But really, the topic of lands being reprinted here is nice, but this obviously means that down the line we will get the other 5 coming back in standard. So reprints down the line, getting our shocks, especially with brand new art, space theme and all that stuff, notably in rare, is great. They don't need to force them down into mythic. Next up, we have the 2 next upcoming sets in 2026. We know that Lorwyn was pushed due to the Avatar set coming down the line later this year, but we are going to get Lorwyn pretty early in 2026, January 23rd. They released some artwork as well. If you want to kind of check out their Twitter or just kind of Google it, honestly. They have some cool art, but not really many cards. And we know that we also are going back to Strixhaven. Now, I notably, I'm curious where they're taking the Strixhaven thing, because right now, obviously we have the whole like Phyrexian threat kind of removed, but we know actually from someone in the comment section in a recent video talking about how Nicol Bolas was potentially actually freed when it comes to like Tarkir Dragonstorm. So right now Tezzeret is like running around in Edge of Eternities doing some crap as well. He's like got a full Darksteel body and apparently isn't kind of melting away from having like planar bridges in him. So I'm wondering what he's doing in Edge of Eternities. My guess is to harness the giant black hole that's like centered to this story. I'm not going to show it in this video, but it's called Cythera. And with that power, is he gonna like find something in Strixhaven? Is there something in the planes of here? Because we know like the characters in Strixhaven made an appearance, especially when it comes to when it came to the horror set, Dustmourne. We had some of the characters making appearances there. Obviously, the planar bridges are open, so we know characters can go everywhere. So there is a focus there. I'm wondering what kind of magic and stuff we are going to get from this set. It's going to be interesting to see what type of mana bases they have. This is obviously one of those like 2-3 color mana base sections of planes. We know that the cards that they printed to standard now are going to be around for a while. We're going to have good mana bases for a while. So I'm curious how they're going to supplement the shock lands. We are going to get all kind of 10 of them in standard for a hot minute. How are they going to supplement them? What lands are they going to add here? How are they going to use the mana bases? And ultimately, what are the lore implications with Secrets of Strixhaven? I'm curious why we're revisiting them, especially because we didn't really get too much, to my knowledge, lore-wise, out of the initial visit to Strixhaven. Now, then really one of the big highlights for me is the cards revealed. And the first one, Tezzeret Cool Crafton. A lot of people talking about this when it comes to, you know, as a joke in Commander, being a glorified Soul Ring tutor, but it's a 3-mana colorless Planeswalker. Being a 3-mana Planeswalker already, you know, a lot of eyes on it. It isn't able to protect itself in the traditional ways of creating bodies in front of it. Maybe you could think of like Elspeths that create a bunch of like 1/1 tokens. But it says whenever an artifact you control enters, put a loyalty counter on it. So in many ways, it kind of is able to protect itself. Like if you combo this with a bunch of like Mox Opals, Mox Ambers, I'm specifically thinking in Modern, then you can get it up pretty high alongside even just dumb things like Ornithopters. You're then able to search your library for an artifact with mana value 1 or less, reveal and put it in your hand. I've gone over a bunch of this in my video from Friday, so check that out if you want more in depth, but this is a Trinket Mage effect, allowing you to tutor, very different from an Urza Saga because it's 1 or less, it doesn't specify 1 or 0, and then it just turns some of your artifacts into robots. Now, a lot of people are talking about this for its primary ability of untapping artifacts. You can do some busted things like you know, if you manage to turn one this with something like a Basalt Monolith, you could cast this with this Basalt Monolith, untap the Monolith, and you essentially have a free walker. You could cast this for exactly like the new Ugin, the 7-mana Ugin. It, I believe, zeros or -1s to create 3 colorless mana. You cast that with the Tezzeret, trigger the Ugin again. A lot of crazy things. This is going to be a high pre-order card. A lot of people talking about how this is going to get restricted in Vintage like ASAP. I'm not surprised that a colorless Planeswalker in a format with shops is as a playset is going to be potentially restricted. Now you can't cast this off of shops, but you can cast and abuse the majority of other things in the shops deck. So regardless, Vintage is going to be probably lit afire with something like this. And I mean, not many people are going to care because of the lack of accessibility for the format, lack of attention on it, but it still means something. Now, the spacecraft side of things is very important here. I believe I might have misordered this. No, I got this right. Okay. So new subtype in Magic, very similar to vehicles. Vehicles, to my knowledge, are going to be temporary. So you crew them, the only creature artifacts for a turn, but spaceships you kind of power up. So the station ability says tap another creature you control, put a charge counter equal to its power onto the spacecraft. Stations only, you can only station as a sorcery. You can't do this at instant speed, unlike with vehicles. And it's an artifact creature at 7+. So as long as you have 7 or more charge counters, it is permanently an artifact creature. So again, very different from vehicles that are temporary, but they balance the station effect by making it at sorcery speed. Notably, the Serema is a card that when it enters, you search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal and put it in your hand. The big thing with spacecrafts, and not only is it just like a new vehicle type, is the fact that as of Edge of Eternities, they are going to be turning all, changing the legality of all vehicles and spaceships that are legendaries, allowing you to play them as commanders. A huge shift in the commander format. A lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, I think it's around like 20 cards when it comes to vehicles that are legendary that you can now play in the command zone. A lot of them are just like whatever abilities. This is just like a nice cleanup rule that I think is just going to add a lot more variety. There are going to be some notable ones that we go over, but in this set, we obviously are going to be getting the addition of a bunch of legendary space stations, especially the commander decks that they revealed so far. I'm not sure if there's only going to be 2 or if there's going to be more, but they showed 2. Those are going to have a legendary creature alongside a legendary spacecraft that they can potentially crew or help kind of get into or whatever, or station to power up. So that's going to be a nice cleanup rule that they add on. Again, from Edge of Eternities, you can obviously do it now. There are going to be some notable ones, such as Blomguard and Seed Academy, you can't actually make as your commander. The ruling specifically is that if the front face of it is has a power toughness and it's a vehicle, then you can make a commander, but you can't make Balam Seed Garden. You can't put that in your command zone because the front face is not a vehicle. The back face is, so you can't do it. Where it gets interesting is with stuff like a Seeker's Chariot. There's like one or two other vehicles that are really interesting. Jackdaw is like another one that I'm thinking of, where when it attacks, you can discard your hand and then draw equal to the number of artifacts you have, and it kind of synergizes with itself by being an artifact. But a Seeker's Chariot is like the big one I'm looking to kind of break. Notably, when a Seeker's Chariot attacks, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. That's not creature token. That's not non-creature token. It's any token. If you have a copy of an artifact, enchantment, whatever type of permanent, you can, on its attack trigger, create a token that's a copy of that token. So there's a lot of funky things that you can do with this when it comes to Commander. This was one of the more powerful just vehicles in general at its time during Standard and all that stuff. Just did a lot of crazy things at the time, but when it comes to Commander, I think you can do some funky things. Let me know in the comment section down below if you want to see like a small little, like, maybe not a whole deck guide, but I have like so many ideas as to like how I want to break this deck or build this deck in general. Let me know if you want to do those. Like sometimes I'll do a little like best cards to put in here, and then if I really like it, like with Hope as time, I build a full deck, but I haven't actually done the full deck tech for Hope yet. So I mean, many of you are probably going to ask for the Hope deck, which is fair. If you want to see the Hope deck, I'll showcase it. But if you want to see the Asika's Chariot deck as well, this is a deck list that I'm definitely looking to kind of brainstorm a little bit. Next up is going to be the 2 commanders. So as I mentioned, we only got the commanders, but these are going to come with, usually these commander decks come with 2-face commanders, and to kind of balance that out, they're going to come with the legendary creature along with a legendary spacecraft that can now, as of the new rules update, as I mentioned, become your commander. Kilo is a fun one. It's Jeskai. And it has haste. It's a 3/3. Whenever Kilo becomes tapped, you proliferate. It's also an artifact creature. When it becomes tapped, that's through attacking. That's through paying for other costs. So if you have like a Springleaf Drum and you're using this to tap for it, then you proliferate. The first combo that kind of came to mind is some way to just like tap or untap it through like a converted mana cost 1 like activation. So if you're thinking like Freed from the Real or something like that, like just some cheap way to tap on tap. And then you can proliferate infinitely. So you're thinking of like Aura of Dominion. I have like a short coming out about this later this week. But for 2 mana, you play this, and then you can pay 1 to tap an untapped creature you control and untap enchanted creature, right? So you can tap the Kilo, the Kilo Apogee, and then untap the Kilo again. And then every time you do that, you proliferate, and you combine that with something like Pentad Prism, where you remove a charge counter from Pentad. So ideally, you need 2 counters on this. You can't have 1. You cast the Pentad Prism for 2 different mana. You put 2 charge counters on it. You remove a charge counter to then activate the Aura Dominion ability to tap the Kilo, untap the Kilo, and then you proliferate your Pentad Prism. What this represents is a loop of infinite proliferate, and then with that, you can cast something like Prologue to Phyresis. Each opponent gets a poison counter, and you can proliferate that to Oblivion. Notably, this is one that says each opponent gets a poison counter. You can get, as long as you just put 1 on them somehow. I think this is going to be a really wacky infect commander. There's so many ways that you can like proliferate a bunch of things as well. You can proliferate 1/1 counters, or just different types of things to a win condition, or different abilities. So this is just going to be a really cool proliferate style commander that's just different from how Atraxa does things. I think the way you want to do this is a bit of a combo build. I think there's value proliferate to be had, but it's very easy, I think, to combo off with this. And I'm just kind of demonstrating a line that goes infinite. The next commander is going to be Zarel Genesis Shepherd. This one's really wacky because legendary creature, insect druid, flying. You may play land cards from your graveyard. It is literally just Crucible of the Worlds in the command zone, which is wild. That's pretty cool. Whenever you sacrifice another non-token permanent on your turn, put a number of 1/1 counters equal to Zarel's power on up to 1 other target creature. Now, notably, it has to be other. You can't hyperpower the Zarel, but with that, playing lands from your graveyard and the ability to sack a non-token permanent, you're thinking of something like fetch land. So if you have a Polluted Delta, you sack it. That is a non-token permanent on your turn that you're sacking to get a land. You get your land, you put it in your graveyard. You now have your Zarel out. If you have other abilities like Azusa that allow you to play additional lands, you can then replay the Polluted Delta from your graveyard to then sack it as a non-token permanent again to trigger the Zarel and put more 1/1 counters onto things. So there's going to be like a lot of proliferation synergies, and I think a lot of the decks out there, such as the oh my god, the modern deck that puts a lot of 1/1 counters on the thing. I'm forgetting the name of the green or the green enchantment. It's on the tip of my tongue, whatever it is. The green enchantment that whenever a counter is put onto something, I'll put an additional 1/1 counter on it instead. These type of strategies are going to get hyper powered. So if you're that type of commander player, look out for stuff like this, especially when it comes to proliferating the amount of charge counters on the station ability of spacecrafts. This is just going to be all over the set. So it's really cool that we're getting this out of landfall synergies. Not exactly landfall, but being able to play lands out of graveyards, getting Crucible of Worlds into your command zone, as well as something like the Apogee that's able to proliferate. We're probably going to see a lot of proliferation shenanigans. I'm personally really excited on that note, because if we start getting some really sweet common proliferate spells that maybe like proliferate draw card, I'm looking at my Poison Storm players out there. We might Pauper Poison Storm might be getting something here. So that's where I'm kind of leading with all this. Like, there are some low-key decks that, you know, we play on the channel that some of you might enjoy as well, that might be getting some pieces out of this set, coming out of a standard set. Look out for commons near you. Now, the last thing I want to mention from this past weekend, as I've been kind of learning standard, and eventually I will be learning Pioneer as I'm doing it through Arena, so I'm just waiting on some wild cards and everything, kind of building my way slowly. This is a top 8 bracket for the Pro Tour that just finished here. As you can see, mono red, red, prowess, 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 prowess. So it is literally the best mono red player and the best Is It Prowess player, the best red decks in the whole format, top 8 all the way down, and that's where we ultimately end up with our win. I believe Ken Yukihiro was actually the winner, to my knowledge here. And ultimately what this means is standard is absolutely messed up. Pretty much almost 50% of the metagame by and large is just red decks. And when it comes to the top 8 of this Pro Tour, if there ever was a sign that multiple things are getting banned out of red when it comes to later this month, June 30th, I think it's going to be pretty clear that this PT is a sign of the times. Not even Azorius Omniscience was able to get there up top, and even that deck struggles really to keep it consistent. Like, that deck needs to have like a perfect 6 and a perfect 7. You need that white 1 enchantment that exiles all kind of converted mana cost permanents 2 or less. And then at that point, you need to be able to put Omniscience in your yard and keep it going. Like, it's not a combo deck that can just win as soon as you combo. The problem is once you get Omniscience out, you don't just win the game. And that's the ultimate downside of the Azorius Omniscience deck. It is a deck that can beat these decks. It is a deck that can be faster. The problem is it loses a lot of points because by the time it combos, it doesn't just win. It's just, oh, now my spells are free. Problem is if you don't have any spells in your hand, or if you don't have like meaningful spells in your hand, like, you're just going to lose. And so therein lies the problem with the other decks that are looking to even try and play in this field. Standard's at an all-time like terrible spot. I've been like really avoiding Modern right now. I know I'm that mill guy, but I've really been avoiding playing mill in any way, shape, or form when it comes to Modern. Modern's just a cesspool right now, in my opinion. It's not as bad as Standard. It's just we should have answered Boros Energy a long time ago. We should have answered that deck so long ago. So I can't wait for something to get banned so that I can maybe play mill decks a little bit more enjoyably, because the rest of the metagame at the top isn't even like that great to play against when it comes to like being a mill player either. So even if it was just like the best deck in the top of the format was just super bad for me as a mill player to play against, that would be fine. But when it comes to now, it's just all the decks are really bad. And especially I'm thinking of this Standard right now, like we have the Water Crystal, and a bunch of players are like actually thinking about and brewing around a Water Crystal like kind of combo deck in Pioneer, because especially when it comes to like something like Sphinx's Tutelage, whenever a player mills a spell, if it like, I believe it's on the spell exactly, but you repeat the process of milling cards if the cards milled match. But Sphinx, the Water Crystal expands that reach. So Sphinx's Tutelage, you know what? I'm just going to do it right now. I need the Sphinx's Tutelage thing here, because this is a really cool combo deck. Sphinx's Tutelage right here. Yeah, so whenever you draw a card, target opponent puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into their graveyard. If they're both non-land cards that share a color, repeat that process. And so what the Water Crystal does is expand that reach. So whenever you would mill any instance of cards, you would mill that many +4. And so Sphinx's Tutelage then reads 6 cards. And so that's almost like an instant win. That's like a build your own Painter Servant Grindstone combo at home. And so there's like this really cool combo deck that people are just like brewing around in Pioneer in the mill Discord. In no way is it like tier 1, but it's a cool way to use that. So I'm wondering if that might have space to somehow work in like Standard. Now, obviously, you know, this isn't Standard legal, but is there a way where we can make something like that work and have that be legal in Standard? Who knows? We'll see down the line. There's a lot of mill support in the format in general. We are going to lose Jace, the Jace the Perfected Mind, which is kind of sad. Like come Edge of Eternities, it's going to rotate out. So that's a big control win condition that we're losing, but we have like River Churn Monument and stuff. The thing is, like, even when it comes to Azorius Omniscience, as I play that deck, my favorite win condition in that deck is just Jace the Perfected Mind. I'll just balance it with a bunch of River Regents and everything. And so without that, I'm curious how like the top end mill decks are even going to be able to win, because it was a favorite mill win condition. It was a favorite win condition, rightfully so. But are we going to be able to make like mill mid-range work in Standard? Are we going to get more pieces for maybe like a Pioneer mill deck? These are the things that I'm thinking about as we get into these metas where maybe things aren't going to be as aggressive. The meta can slow down. How can we use that in Standard? How can we now get additions into Pioneer as we start to see like other combo decks such as the Water Crystal come to light? Who knows? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Those have been my big updates for kind of the past weekend and everything that's been happening. A lot of cool things happened. A lot of great things have happened. A lot of cool announcements. A lot of whatever things have happened as well. But I mean, that's kind of my constructed gripes that'll hopefully largely be fixed once it comes to June 30th. So for now, I'm just enjoying the broken metas as they are. I'm just going about like Azorius Omniscience on Arena, like, you know, just whatever. There's red everywhere, but you know, maybe I can grind my way to a mythic slot or something like that. Regardless, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. How have you handled all these announcements from this past weekend? Are you really excited for something? Am I missing a key piece in something? Is one of the things that get announced that I am not including just like the big thing that I'm ignoring? What are the lore implications of Tezzeret running after a black hole on the edge?